Let's talk about two-dimensional arrays. Two-dimensional arrays is an array that has more than one column, not necessarily two columns. Okay, it is called two-dimension because the array is row by column. We have an array that is two-dimensional array. The user will input a value to be searched in this 2D array. The user will say, okay, I want to search A1. To now search A1, the program will now return all the index of 1 found. Is this understood? So that means if the user needs to find A1, it will return that 1 is found in row 2, column 3, row 4, column 3, and row 6, column 3. Is this understood? If the user needs to find A5, it returns that 5 is found in row 1, column 1, row 2, column 2, row 3, column 3, row 4, column 2, row 6, column 1. Is that understood? It should return all the position. And position means what? Row by column. This is a two-dimensional array. But which is the row, which is the column? Array 2 has 4 rows. Because one item after the comma, any number before the comma is an item. Comma separates each of the items. Is this understood? So for array 2, this has 4 rows because this is one value, 1 row, 1 row, 1 row, 1 row. So this has how many rows? 4 rows. And it's a one-dimensional array because each of the item, there is only one item in each of the rows. But for array 1, we have this is one value, one item before the comma. Like I said, comma separates each of the values. Is this understood? So this is one value, comma, one value, comma, one value, comma, one value, and so on. Okay. So which makes this item to be what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So that makes it what? 6 rows. And in each of the row, this is the first row, there are 3 values. So that means it is what? It is 3 columns. Is this understood? So that means that is 3 columns. So that will be each of these rows has 3 values. Okay, so that is 6 rows by 3 columns. Is this understood, everyone? And this is 4 rows by 1 column. So this is a one-dimensional array because each of the value has one value in it, while each of these values have 3 values in it. I hope this is understood. So that's how to identify rows and columns in Python. Okay, and this is the graphical representation. Now, if you want to print an item in array 2, we just write print array. Let's print the first item. What is the first item? Array 2 0, isn't it? Are you all following me, guys? So what would this print, guys? It will print a 5 because that is the first value, right? So when you print this prints 5. That is the first value. If you want to print the first value in array 1, what is the first value in array 1? That is the first value. So when you print this, it prints the first value in array 1. Is this understood? Now, if you want to print the second value, you also write 2, 3, and so on. So that is each value. That proves that each of the value before the comma is one value. Is this understood? Now, if in array 1, if I don't want to print the first of the first value, that means I have to print the row by column. Don't forget, that was why I told you when I asked you where is value 2, you cannot just tell me column 2. You cannot also tell me row 1. You have to tell me row 1, column 2. Is that understood? So printing array 0 does not mean you are printing the first value. If you want to print the first of the first value, you have to print array 1 0 0. Is this understood? That means this will take the first row, first column. I repeat, first row, first column. So this prints what? This prints 5. Is this understood? What would this print? Why is it 1? Row 4, column 1. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, column 2. Which print this 1, isn't it? It starts from 0 and not from 1. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, isn't it? And column 2, it will print these 2, isn't it? Let's use linear search to find a value from this 2D array. Let's assume we want to search for a 5. We take the first row and check the first column. Oh, there's 5. Then we take the position. No 5. Then no 5. Then we take the second row. Then search for each column. Take the third row. Search for each column. Take the fourth. Take the fifth and take the sixth. Then we are done. Or we take the first column and search for each rows and search in each row. Second column, search for each row. Third column, search for each row. So that means we need 2 for loops, isn't it? Because we need to search for each of the rows and each of the column, right? So we need 2 for loops. So let's go back to this. And the first thing is to request the input from the user, right? Then we write user is equal to integer input, enter the value to search. Okay, they will now iterate through the first row, isn't it? We take each row. Okay, the first thing is to ask the user to input what? The number they want to search, isn't it? Then I write what? User is equal to, I need to convert to integer, isn't it? Input, enter the number to search. So this retrieves the input from the user and stored in what? In the variable user. Okay. And the next thing is, now the user has told you what they need to find, isn't it? Now from this table, I told you I need to find a 2. What do? You go through the first row and search through each of the column, isn't it? So let's go to the first row. Don't forget, we are going to go through all the index and not values, because we are returning index, we are not returning the value. Is that understood? That means for this index, what is the index of the row in this array? How many index we have in this array? 5. So we need to go from 0 to 5, isn't it? And to go from 0 to 5, you can't write 0 to 5 because you may not know the index of the array, isn't it? So you have to write for rows in the range of length of array. So don't go from 0 to 5. You go from length of array. Because what if the array is what? Is not 5? Is this understood? Yeah. Good. Because we don't declare arrays in Python, isn't it? If it was Pseudocode, we will have declared the array, then we know the dimension. Is this understood? Okay, good. For column in range of length of array, not 0. Row, not 0, but rows. Now this will take the first position of the array, the first item, the first of the first item, right? Then we now write if user is equal to array what? Row column, isn't it? Row, then column. It's not row comma column, please. Row comma column. If it is equal, then it is found, right? Now, then I can write that I can declare a variable, a Boolean variable to set it to true or false, isn't it? Then I can write that found is equal to true. So that means I must have initialized found as what? As false. Is that understood? Is equal to false. Is this understood, guys? Now, if found is true, an item has been found, but what is the aim? Return what? The index of everything. So when it is found, we shouldn't leave the for loop. It should continue to find, isn't it? So it can return what? All the index. So how do you think we can return all the index? Store. Store whatever, whenever we found this, store it in a specific variable.
So at the end,
How do you store in a variable? How?
like now, if found is true, we make another if, right? Like if found is true, and then for example we store rows, columns in an array, and then we add the array of found values.
Yeah, that's correct, but that would be a long code for you.
So
Because you need more code. At the end of once you need to declare another array, you need to append to an array. When you are done, then you need another for loop to output each of the values in the array. It's correct, but that will take you more time and more lines of code.
all the indexes.
Not add. And concatenate. Good. That is the fastest way. If it is true, then we can have what? A string to hold what? To hold all the index, isn't it? We can have a string. That means you must have initialized the string. If you want to use count equals to count plus 1, that means you must initialize count. When you are trying to add a variable, a value to itself, you must initialize. If not, you can't. It will give an error. So index is equal to this. Then I write that index is equal to index, then plus. Okay, sorry, it will be index plus. Then let me have some rows plus string of rows, string of rows plus column, then plus string of column. So what have I done? Then out of this loop, so if anything is found, it gets out of this loop, right? Then we can write if found is equal to true. That is, if found is by chance true, then we print found at plus index. Else print item not found. So let's run that code now and search for number 3. What do you see? Found at row 2 column 0, row 3 column 0, row 4 column 1, row 5 column 1. So let's confirm if that is right. Where is 3? Where is the first 3? Is it row 3 or row 2? Row 2 column? Row 2 column 0. Row 2 column 0. Where is the next 3? Row 3 column 0. Row 3 column 0. Where is the next 3? Row 4 column 1. Row 4 column 1. Where is the next 3? Row 5 column 1. Okay, good. So the first thing, let's declare the arrays, okay? So then declare, let me call the name of the array data, okay? Yes. Declare data, then full column what? Array is a 2D, isn't it? So what do I declare first? The rows first, isn't it? That will be 0, 5, and what? 0, 2, because there are 3 columns, isn't it? Then of what? Of integer. Is this understood, guys? Yes. Now, after declaring this array, then the first thing is to request an input from the user. So that means we need to declare what? The input variable, isn't it? Then declare user as what? Integer. Declare the empty what? The empty string, isn't it? Then declare index as a string. You also need to declare the variables you are using in the loops, isn't it? Then declare rows integer. Declare column as integer. Declare the boolean, right? So declare found as boolean. Is this understood, guys?
Yes.
Now, after the declaration, then we can request for the input from the user, isn't it? Then we write output. Please enter the value. Okay. Then we receive what? The input and save in user, isn't it? Then you write input user. Are you guys following me? Okay, good. Then we initialize what? Index and found. Then found is equal to false. Index is equal to this. Are you all following me? Now, after this has been done, what is the next thing? Then you use the for loop, isn't it? Then we write for rows in is equal to what? Is equal to 0 to, can I write length of array? No, length is only for strings, isn't it? And not for array. So I have to write to what? To the maximum what? Boundary, isn't it? Then I write for rows equals to 0 to what? To 5, isn't it? Then I write another one in the indentation, right? Then I write for column is equal to what? To 2. Is this understood? Now that I've written the iterative function, the next thing is what? Is if user is equal to what? Array row column. Then I write if user is equal to data, because I declared my array as what? Data, isn't it? Data rows column. Is this Python or pseudocode? Are you sure? So what do I write in pseudocode? Comma. So don't forget, this is Python way of writing it, but in pseudocode you use what? Comma. Okay? So if user equal to data rows, comma, column, then don't forget we are not writing in Python but pseudocode. Then what? Found is equal to true. Found is equal to true. Is this understood? Then after our found is equal to 2, then you concatenate with what? With the index, right? Then you write that index is equal to index. Do I write plus, Emna?
No, yeah, that's
Ampersand. Ampersand. Then row. Ampersand. Then can I write row here? Row is what? Is an integer. What am I supposed to write? A string. So how do I write a string? Num to string. So to prevent, because that would take a long line of code, isn't it? So I can do this before writing this, then write that row is equal to, now this is a different variable, right? Num to string of what? Rows. Then I also need the one for column, isn't it? Why am I doing this? Just to prevent writing a long line of code, isn't it? It is not compulsory. Then I write column is equal to num to string column. Then that means I have to go back to declare what? Row and column, isn't it? As a what? As a string, because this row and column are integers, right? So you cannot use this or else you will be wrong. Then I need to declare my one. Are you following me? Rows column as what? As string. Is row, not rows, isn't it? Is row and not rows. Then I can write index is index and row, then row and column and colon. Is this understood? Then I'm fine because I've converted them to what? To string. Then this is done. That is all. Then I go to the next outside the loop, then I must end the if, isn't it? And if. Then Aya's suggestion. Next what? Next column. So we only do that in pseudocode and not Python. Are we done with the next? No. I also need what? Next row. Are you all following me? Next row. Is this understood? Then the indentation of for loop is done. Then after the for loop, then I go back to write if found is equal to true. So if found is equal to true. Yeah. So then if found is true, then what? Print. That will be what? Output. Found at and index. Is this understood? Then we concatenate what? With index. Is this understood, everyone? Else. Will I write my else here or here? Inside. Else. Output. Item not found. Then what? And if. And that is all, everyone. Any question, guys? Do you understand this? So what I've just taught you now, if you are given any question in pseudocode, understand the question before you start writing your code. If you understand the question and analyze the question, it will be easy for you guys to write your code. Imagine if I did not solve this problem in Python. Do you know it won't be very easy for me to write this code? Do you know? This code was easy for me to write because I have solved it in Python. But in your exam, you won't have to solve in Python before you write, isn't it? That means you must have analyzed your code. If your code is well analyzed, it is easy for you to just write without making mistake. I was able to write this code without making mistake, without thinking of what to write, because I have analyzed this code. Is this understood? So your exam or your test, please analyze the question, understand the question before you write. If you are writing while thinking, it takes you more time and you make more mistakes. And you can even forget something. You can forget to convert to string, you can forget a den, you can forget an indentation because you did not analyze, you were just writing and what? And solving. Is this understood? So I've taught you how to work with 2D arrays, how to perform a linear search on a 2D array, and how to solve a pseudocode question by first analyzing before solving. Is this understood, everyone? Any other question? Thank you for your time, everyone.